You know, when I think back to my earliest experiences with faith, I'm struck by how much of it revolved around awe. My family was deeply religious. We'd spend weekends in these massive cathedrals. I mean, imagine this: towering arches, intricate stained glass, just vast spaces that drew your eyes upward. It was mesmerizing. And yet, as I got older, that same awe started to feel misplaced. Rather than symbolizing something universal and transcendent, it began feeling like these institutions were, cages for questions, you know?
Cages for questions? Oof, that's heavy. But I get it. Like they weren't set up to let you peel back those layers and properly wrestle with things. Did you feel like asking questions was, I don't know, almost frowned upon?
Absolutely. It was like there was this invisible line you weren't supposed to cross. And any curiosity? It wasn't celebrated. It was, well, met with this quiet disapproval. Almost a fear that asking why might lead you astray. But what fascinated me was how the actual architecture of those spaces, which was designed to inspire exploration and transcendence, clashed sharply with this rigidity in doctrine. It became a powerful metaphor for me.
A metaphor for breaking out, huh? Love that. But let's talk about this tension. You're standing in these gorgeous places meant to embody something bigger than us, and yet the rules and, the expectations felt kinda limiting?
Exactly, and what stuck out most, honestly, was the hypocrisy. Here you had institutions that preached love, compassion, forgiveness, and yet their actions didn't seem to align. It felt performative, like they were preserving structures that benefited a few, while stifling the core message that drew people in.
Yeah, do as we say, not as we do. You're not alone in seeing that, though. I reckon so many people grow up believing in belief, and then bam, you hit contradictions that just don't add up. Did that shake your faith completely back then?
Not immediately. It was more gradual, a slow chipping away. At first I thought the fault was with me, like maybe I wasn't faithful enough. But as I met people with entirely different belief systems, the cracks widened. I realised that truth, capital T truth, might not be confined to the walls of a single church, or any church for that matter.
Yes, and also, isn't it wild how stepping outside that bubble helps you see people living these rich, meaningful lives, completely outside of those strict frameworks? It's like this permission slip to rethink everything.
Oh, absolutely. Suddenly the world wasn't this battleground of good versus evil. It was a tapestry of perspectives, every thread adding something valuable to the whole. The absolutes I'd been taught started to feel incomplete.
Incomplete, and maybe even a little suffocating?
Suffocating is the word, Ruby. It's like being told this is the only lens you're allowed to use to view the world. But once you swap it out with another, or even, dare I say, none at all, the clarity can be overwhelming.
Yeah, like breaking out of a fishbowl, right? Suddenly the ocean's there and you're like, whoa, this is huge. But it takes courage to get there, doesn't it? Especially when the framework you grew up with feels so absolute.
It really does. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that breaking free isn't about rejecting the entire structure of belief. It's about freeing yourself to explore the full spectrum of possibility. That's where real freedom lies, in exploration.
Wow, I'm nodding so hard over here. We don't realize how much power these institutions hold until we step back, right? I mean, you've got tradition, community, identity all tangled up in there. Unpicking that, it's messy, but also essential.
Precisely. And when we finally allow ourselves to engage critically, those threads become less about conformity and more about connection. Not to an institution, but to something deeply personal and meaningful.
Love that. Connection over conformity. Honestly, Eric, your cathedral story has me rethinking my own view of these monuments. They're more than walls, huh? They're mirrors too. Eric, speaking of connection versus conformity, it's fascinating, but also kind of heartbreaking when you think about how historically religion hasn't just shaped people's lives, but sometimes been twisted to justify some really cruel stuff. What's your take on that?
Where to begin? The Crusades come to mind. It wasn't just a moment of faith, it was faith weaponized. A rallying cry cloaked in divine purpose, but aimed at conquest. And then there's the Inquisition. Imagine, questioning someone's belief could get them tortured or worse, executed, simply for not adhering to a dominant narrative.
Yeah, and don't forget the Salem witch trials. Yikes. People were literally hanged on suspicion alone, all under this banner of purging evil. Honestly, it makes you wonder, how did anyone trust these systems?
Precisely, Ruby. Trust was less about belief in spirituality and more about subscribing to social power structures. These weren't isolated. They illustrate how religious dogma, wielded improperly, becomes a tool for oppression. And what's alarming is elements of this still echo today.
100%. And that's why I vibe so hard with the First Amendment. Like, let's chat about that. How it wasn't just about making lawmakers feel clever. It actually protects what faith or no faith someone holds without fear of someone else's beliefs going full-blown takeover.
Quite right. The First Amendment guarantees not just freedom of religion, but freedom from religion's coercive control. It enshrines this balance where we can embrace pluralism. And yet, the myth of America as a Christian nation keeps undermining this principle.
Myth, eh? Hit me with your spiciest take on that. Go on.
Well, here's the thing. While early America had dominant Christian influences, the Founding Fathers were adamant about separating church and state. Take Jefferson's Wall of Separation letter. It's clear they envisioned public policy driven by reason, not religious doctrine. Yet declarations like "In God We Trust" were late arrivals, responses to Cold War sentiment more than authentic founding principles.
Wait, so this whole notion of a Christian nation kind of snuck its way in? That's wild. And it's not just old-timey rhetoric though, is it? Feels like it's active ammo for mixing religion into laws, like LGBTQ+ rights or reproductive freedoms.
Exactly. When church and state blur, the rights of marginalised communities, already precarious, are placed in